there is no middle class in Mexico. You're either rich or poor.
Carlos Reyes,
real estate investor and mentor.
Closed over 1,000+ deals.
Who has triumphantly built
7 companies.
I was born in Hermosillo, which is the capital of Sonora. Crossed over here illegally. One of the hardest questions that she ever had to answer, when will you be back? And my mom's answer was, I don't know.
So what made you want to be an entrepreneur?
I've never been money driven. I've always been purpose driven. And my mission and my purpose is to do more so I can make more and so that I can give more. Like I had a freaking video go viral when I said, say what you want to say about Mexicans, right? But the one thing you can't say is that we don't work hard, brother. I want to raise orphanages. I want to raise clinics. I want to bring clean water to certain neighborhoods. I want to bring electricity to certain neighborhoods. And when people say, oh, we're doing 9 figures a year, there's a lot of people that say that. I don't believe them unless I see financials. You got to be careful because a lot of people proclaim to be something, but the fact of the matter is their actions don't match their words. Driving around with 20,000 in my car like I'm some kind of drug dealer with that phase of my life, I became very spiritually bankrupt. I started to focus in on the things that really matter in life, which was, myself, my health, my mind, my body, my spirit, my connection with God.
What's Carlos Reyes' best advice?
Start shifting your belief system. Start taking massive action. Anything is possible if you just believe.
Kicking Ass, Taking Names podcast, and today we are here with a local legend, actually originally from Mexico. What part of Mexico, Carlos?
Hermosillo, Sonora.
Okay.
But I was raised in Guaymas.
That's the with H, right?
Yep.
Okay,
yep.
so what people would you usually say, like Hermosillo? Is
Hermosillo, so the H is silent.
Hermosillo or whatever.
Yeah, Hermosillo.
Yeah.
Wow.
So Carlos Reyes, immigrant, very crazy story. I want to get into that because I think it's important for people to relate to who they're listening to, right?
Absolutely.
And they might not be able to relate in terms of like going through what you've been through, but just understanding that the immigrant story is pretty, that's the story of America. And I saw it and I thought it was a really great story. So for those who want to know, Carlos runs All In Nation, right?
Yep.
And they're a conglomeration of, how many companies? 5, 6?
7.
7 companies.
Solar, medical, real estate acquisitions. BPO, just all kinds of different industries.
And then software as well, right? There's
software as service, yeah.
But primarily the way that Carlos got started was real estate. And that's right. This is main bread and butter. So if you're in real estate, especially pay attention to this one because Carlos also does mentorship. So Carlos, thank you for being here today.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. It's long overdue, and I'm glad we're making it happen,
Yeah, and I've been following you, and you also have kind of like a media sort of division, which makes perfect sense if you have 7 companies, right?
Yeah.
And so I wanted to start off with just kind of like the story, right? Like before people go into the strategy and the tips and tricks, people want to know like who is Carlos Reyes? And I know you got that story. Immigrant story.
Yeah, bro. It's I guess I'm very grateful for, obviously I don't guess, but I'm very grateful for, where I am today in life. But, I never in my wildest dreams that I ever think that I would be, where I am today, I am the epitome of a survival, like true survival. Like I crossed over here illegally, on more than one occasion. My mom, I was born in Hermosillo, which is the capital of Sonora, right? Sonora is about 3-4 hours south of here. And my mom, when I was really young, maybe a couple years old, my mom left my father. My father didn't leave my mom. My mom left my father because he was abusive. He was sometimes come home coked out, drinking, and then he would, be very abusive physically and mentally, right? Emotionally too. One day he came to the house really, coked out of his mind, and he started digging. He's like, where's he at? Where's he at? Like he was thinking that my mom was cheating on him, which my mom was raising 2 kids at home, me and my brother. Starts looking under the bed, blah, 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 goes completely crazy, puts us against the wall, takes his gun out and starts shooting around our feet. You know what I mean? And that was, once that happened, a week later, my mom, like as soon as she got the opportunity, she moved me and my brother down to an hour and a half south of Hermosillo, which is Guaymas, where my grandparents were. And at that point, she's like, I'm never going back, right? Because she's like, I could have lost my life. My kids could have lost their life. So, we start trying to make it down in Mexico, and bro, like, there's not much going on down there. I said this all the time, that in my opinion, there is no middle class in Mexico. You're either rich or poor. Mm-hmm. You're either struggling or you're not. You know what I mean? And I've had a lot of backlash over the years when I say that there's a middle class down there. No, there's not, bro. There really isn't. You're either you either know someone, or you're at that level of that network of politicians and lawyers and judges and businessmen, or you're the common folk, which is us, right? Think about it, right? When we moved down there, my mom was cleaning resort rooms for $20 to $30 a week, right? I was bagging groceries, and I was making more money than her. I was making like $10 to $12 a day, because the little store that I was bagging groceries at, a lot of Americans would come and they had dollars. So, right, that was amazing. But this is what happened. My mom saw that it was a dead end. Mexico, there was no future for her sons. So she had this really hard talk with my grandparents. She said, hey, I'm going to try to go over to the other side, which is America, United States of America, and I'm going to try to create a life for me and my children. Can you please watch the kids, right? And the first question was one of the hardest questions that she ever had to answer was, okay, we can. When will you be back? And my mom's answer was, I don't know. And that was really, really tough, right? And that's how our journey started, man. She came over, and it took her a few years. She finally, built something just enough. She was working the field. She got amnesty. Then she went over, got us in illegally, right, into America. The first time we came over to Escondido, California, which was part of San Diego County. Literally, we came through a sewer canal in San Isidro next to TJ, got to Escondido, only lasted a year and some change, went back to Mexico, and restarted all over again for another couple years, regrouped, came to Phoenix, right? Next time, she brought me over first, paid a human smuggler $25, got me through a hole in the fence in Nogales, Sonora, into Nogales, Arizona, met her at the McDonald's, jumped in a van, came up to Phoenix. That was 96, started fixing my immigration paperwork in 1997, right? And then eventually, after 15 years of going through that process, I got my citizenship in 2012. And then I started my entrepreneur journey in 2013. So it's definitely been a wild ride, man.
It's just you condensed that story.
I tried, yeah.
That is I feel like such a relatable story to a lot of Mexican Americans. Do you run into a lot of people that have had that same situation, have done that?
Well, I run into a lot of people like you and Ryan Pineda, right? And some of these folks that their parents were immigrants. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. So I am what their parents are.
Yeah.
Like you had the blessing to, be born here with the social security number and citizenship, right? Yeah. I didn't have that blessing, but I've shied away from categorizing myself or labeling myself as, I'm a Mexican or I'm an immigrant, right? Because I thought that I would alienate people out of that. But that actually, over the past, 8 years, it's kind of like, it's worked against me, because my people, which is the Mexican Americans and the Latino Americans and the immigrants, they need an example. There is no, you got Grant Cardone and the Tony Robbins of the world, and you got the Ed Milet's and the Andy Frisellas and the Bradleys and all these guys, right? But my people don't have those guys. Mm-hmm. So it's actually been counterproductive for me because I'm a human being that loves all races, all faces, all colors, right? But I've never really advocated, for a specific group of people. And I'm starting to make a little bit of a twist on that this year, and it's exploding. Like I had a freaking video go viral for 1.6 million. Yeah. But when I said, say what you want to say about Mexicans, right? But the one thing you can't say is that we don't work hard, right? That literally, it's pinned on my thing, 1.6 million, right? And that tells you that there is a hunger, there is a thirst out there for a immigrant or a Mexican to lead by example and to let everybody know the possibilities of what could be.
And that's exactly, I mean, the reason why I ask is because I'm one of those people, right? Like I say, like, I don't want to criticize. I don't want to critique. I don't want to, I haven't done all of these things to tell other people how to live their life.
Yeah.
But I do always have like an opinion. And I'm always one of those people where I'm like, oh, I feel like that would be a better, not just like angle, because that sounds too tactical, but more of like, that would be like more towards your mission, right? Like you can either be a mercenary or a missionary, right? And I think it's so much more important to be a missionary, because in the short run, you may be able to get into a business and crush it and you're a mercenary and jump into another business. But in the long run, in terms of your entire life fulfillment, and actually I think it also translates to money as well, as being a missionary and able to, that allows you to be that person that you really are meant to be, right? That God puts you on this earth to be. Yeah. I think that part of the reason why I'm not dead today, and just car crashes or whatever it could have been, that I've had close calls, is because I have some greater purpose.
There you go.
And I wanted to ask you about that. So like a lot of the stuff you do is faith-based. You also are not afraid to put controversial opinions out there. What is it that your mission is, and what do you want to share with the world? Because you've been doing media. You're an immigrant. You've made it in the U.S. I mean, you have a 8-figure actually. I don't even know if is it 8 figures monthly, or is it just 8 figures?
No, it's 8 figures,
but going to 9. Yeah,
yeah. My dream is that by the end of 2027, there's a lot of people that say a lot of things out there, right? But I've been in the game of business for over 2 decades, and I've been in the game of business as a business owner for over a decade. And when people say, oh, we're doing 9 figures a year, there's a lot of people that say that. I don't believe them unless I see financials. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry. Like, you can, like, 99% of the masses out there, they'll be like, oh, okay, wow, the guy is crushing.
Yeah.
Right. Sorry, brother. I need to see financials.
Yeah. Yeah. When you've been around enough.
Yeah. You know what I mean? And everybody says something, everybody can say something. And those are the worst kind of people, because at that point, it's, it's not so much, not only that you're lying to people, but you're lying to yourself. And every time you lie to yourself, you're chipping off a piece of your soul, Yeah. So it is what it is, right? Let's live in our truth. So my goal is that by the end of 2027, our organization is producing $100 million in annual revenue, gross revenue, right? Not even net. Like, no, if you're producing $100 million in gross revenue a year and your net profitability is 27%, then you really only produced, you generated $100 million in gross revenue, but you kept $27 million to your pocket, right? Which is still very healthy. That's not what I'm sitting here saying, but for people to just be blabbing out there about, oh yeah, I'm producing $100 million a year. All right, bro, let's go through your financials, right?
Yeah.
And then, you know what? I'll tell you what, if we go through your financials and you really are hitting $100 million a year, I'll give you $1 million for doubting you.
I mean, so when it comes to your purpose, your mission, okay, so nowadays there's a lot of entrepreneurs that are speaking and saying these things, but you talk about the financials. Let's say, specifically with the financials, how do you have a plan by 2027? Could you explain to people who are like, it's a very practical story you have, right?
Yeah.
Like, you were like, hey, what can I do? I'm going to get involved in real estate. It's a vehicle where I can build.
That was the catalyst for sure. That was definitely the catalyst. We crushed it in real estate so much that it allowed us to acquire other companies and other industries. And it was the catalyst to literally expand into what's called the private equity space, where we have private equity in multiple companies across different industries. But my goal, my mission is, it's like, I've never been money driven. I've always been purpose driven, right? And my mission and my purpose is to do more so I can make more and so that I can give more. Right. That's it right there. I want to be able, like I just went down to Mexico, Ensenada, Baja California. And for 4 days, you know, we were down in an orphanage, and, you know, there's not a lot of that on social media from me, because these are things that I just don't, whatever, you know, like, right. I don't go down there with the camera, bro. I don't take my camera guy down there so he can record me being a good Samaritan, you know. No, I'm out there, me, my wife, and my 11-year-old, we're painting the orphanage, you know, 5 buildings on the orphanage. My business partner is putting together bunk beds for the orphans, right? So I personally have contributed financially. I didn't just write a check to the orphanage. I actually went down there. I wrote the check in January, and then I went down there this month. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I want to do for the rest of my life, brother. I want to raise orphanages. I want to raise clinics. I want to bring clean water to certain neighborhoods. I want to bring electricity to certain neighborhoods. You know, I want to put together housing in certain neighborhoods throughout, like I said, you know, Mexico, Guatemala, Nicaragua, El Salvador, you know, where these are places that don't have the resources that we have here in America, right? That's why I have to make a lot of money so that I can help a lot of people.
So let's bridge the gap. How did you get involved and started initially in real estate with nothing?
When the pain is great enough, right? That's when change will happen. There's an old saying that says, people don't change until the pain exceeds, right, the pain of having to change. So if you think about it, change is painful. You know, I was used to working a 9-to-5 job for a very long time and survive, you know, paycheck to paycheck, but I couldn't take my wife and my one child at the time. I got 2 daughters now with my wife. I could only take her, I can only drive 5 hours or 6 hours away. That was vacation, right? And we'd have to save up for that. And my wife and I would split the bills. Hey, I'll take care of the mortgage, which at that time was $1,200. My mortgage now is $7,500, right? I'll take care of the mortgage. You take care of the cars. I'll take care of the electricity. You take care of the gas, right? Brother, to me, I'm a man, and I'm an honorable man. So I wanted to bring honor to my household. Like, hey, you know what? Someone has to raise these kids. We were dropping off our oldest child, MJ, Michaela Jade, to grandma's house so that I can go to work and my wife can go to work, right? I said, this has to change. I can't complain about who's raising my child or what kind of adult my child is going to turn out to be unless I take control, right? Unless I take control. How do I take control? Well, you know what? It hurts to be this poor. It hurts to watch my wife go to work. It hurts to watch us live paycheck to paycheck. It hurts that the year is 2013 and my wife is driving around a 2008 Nissan Rogue, right? This hurts. So what am I going to do about it? And that's when, you know, I took control and I read a book, a $10 book. I always wanted to be in real estate in some way, shape or form. I read a $10 book. I was just so bought in and so hyper focused that I didn't even get done reading the book. Chapter 1 said, go put out bandit signs. And I went out and put out bandit signs. I put out 2,400 bandit signs for 6 straight months alone, because the few times that I paid someone to drive for me, a friend, a brother-in-law, a cousin, right? They wouldn't come back. I would pay them $50 to just drive me around. So I had to go on this journey early alone because nobody believed besides my wife, besides myself, and I would say maybe my mom, right? So I went on this journey, and 6 months later, I got my first deal, and I was like, whoa, dude, I just made as much or more money with this one deal, and it would take me a full month of 60 to 70 hours a week working my 9-to-5 job. I need to start shifting some of that time, energy, more time and energy into making this happen.
Yeah.
And I never looked back.
Talk about the phases. We spoke about, you were talking about the phases of your life.
Yeah.
And that developing as an entrepreneur.
That's right.
First, before we get into the phases, could you also talk about what brought you into like wanting to be an entrepreneur? Because a lot of people are immigrants and they come to the US and they just work for the rest of their life. So what made you want to be an entrepreneur?
You know, brother, I've always I've always fended for myself. Like my mom and I always made it happen, you know, whether she was flipping cars or we were flipping clothes or I was selling door-to-door bread in Mexico or I was bagging groceries, if she was cleaning hotel rooms, right? We always just went out and like we never depended on anyone to make money, right? We like, you know, coming from where we come from, you either do something or sell something, and that's how you put food on the table. And by the way, where I come from, it's day to day, not week to week or month to month. You know what I mean? It's day to day, right? If you ever go down to Mexico, these folks that are out there selling on the street, they're out there selling on the street so that they can earn that day's living. Okay, let me just put that into perspective. You know what I'm saying? So I just kind of always had that spirit inside me, that fight. Now, I never thought about building anything. Now, I will say that when I was a little boy, I remember, you know, we were walking up to my grandmother's house, and I was about 5 or 6. And I remember my mom and I actually, you know, we talk about this story very often, where we're coming up, you know, up into my grandmother's house. You got dirt roads. It's muddy. It was raining. You got dirt floors, right? We got no electricity there. It's all like gas lamps, right? And we're walking up into my grandmother's house. And I remember just, you know, she was holding my hand and I just looked up at her, you know, and it makes me a little emotional because I'll never forget that day. I said, you know what, Mom? I said, you know, one day you're never going to have to worry about money ever again, you know, because she was just getting off work. And sure thing, bro, I retired her in 2016. So I think subconsciously I just always had that in me to be able to provide, you know, leisure to my mother. You know, that was the first thing I ever wanted to do. Is I watched this woman work so hard, 2 jobs, 3 jobs, 2 hours, 3 hours of sleep while she was working a night shift at the airport, a morning shift at the cafeteria at an elementary school. You know what I mean? Like I just always wanted to provide leisure. Actually, I apologize. I didn't retire her in 2016. I retired my wife October of 2016. I retired my mom March of April 2017. And now, like, today's her payday, right? So today's Thursday, right? So she gets paid today. I replaced her income, and every single week she gets paid by me every single week. Yeah. And how was I going to make that possible if, you know, if I didn't achieve financial freedom first? You know, sometimes that's the way it has to be. Like what you want for others, you got to go get it yourself first, so that you can provide that for others.
So then that was a phase of your life. And this is
survival.
Like, I have a little bit of a like a relation to seeing that through my father. Yeah. So he's an immigrant. I'll have to tell you a story another time. It'll be a great story. But essentially seeing the survival, I don't know if a lot of people, unless they're like related to immigrants or even unless they're like, you know, 8 Mile or something like that.
Yeah.
You know, like I don't know if they
Detroit,
I don't know if they understand that the same way, but I never had to go through it really too much. As a young child, I remember crying because my father wasn't home ever because he was working all the time. Grinding. Like, I mean, that's the biggest impact, was that I was essentially raised by my mother because my father was working all the time. But he was still a presence. Like, he was still always there. It's You know,
birthday parties, nighttime, dinners.
Just like, you know, when you're supposed to be home, you know, and he did longer hours than most and worked, you know, double and triple and manager and then operations, and he owns restaurants and real estate. But what I was gonna say is, like, so I see the survival mechanism. And then it also gets accelerated if you have like deaths when you're young in the family or family members that die. He had some of that happen. What do you think? Like you talk about the phases and that you went through a couple of phases. Yeah. Can you tell me like how that is a relation to, because I like to relate everything now to like somebody who's watching this, right?
Yeah.
Like I always think about how can I relate what I'm talking about to what other people are going through.
Most of my life, I was in survival. Think about it. I lived in fear most of my life. You know, my mom wasn't at home in Mexico because she was over here trying to grind it out. So I lived in fear. The fear was, where's my mom? Will I ever see her again? You know what I mean? That does something to a child. You know, I was a child. When I say, like, you know, I'm, like I said, I'm 4, 5, 6, 7 years old. You know, that does something to a kid mentally, subconsciously, emotionally, you know. You live in fear, man. You're like, where's my mom? I don't have my dad, and I don't have my mom now. Like, and you ask your grandma, where's my mom? Where's my mom? And you just don't understand when she tells you, don't worry, your mom loves you. She's coming back. You'll see her again.
Yeah.
Like you don't, right? I used to literally have her, I used to have a black and white picture of her underneath my pillow. And I used to cry sometimes at night because I would miss her so much, right? So I dealt with that. It's some people label that as orphan syndrome. If you look at some of the symptoms and the definition of orphan syndrome, right? A lot of fear, a lot of insecurity. It's in there because of, the emotional state that you're in because your parents aren't around, right? You have no safety around you. So that was, survival for me. Then you come over here to the States and you're illegal. So you're constantly having to look over your shoulder. Oh man, I got to stay straight. I can't break any laws. I can't get in trouble or else they're going to get me and they're going to deport me, right? So that happened for a very long time. So I always lived in fear. And then, like I said, I became legal. Then I got my citizenship. Then I went into business. So I was poor and in fear most of my life. And then from 2013 to 2017, I grinded really hard with like the real estate thing, right? And then in 2017, late 2017, I became a multimillionaire finally. Multimillionaire means a couple of things, right? Not only is the money in the bank, but more importantly, your assets, right? Your assets are producing a significant amount of money, right? It's very simple. Like if you do the formula of multimillionaire, right? It's assets, take away liabilities equals what your net worth is. It's that simple. People throw around the word multimillionaire, like it's candy. And the fact of the matter is, now from what I've seen, back then in 17, 18, if you were a multimillionaire, you were in pretty good shape. Now, if you're a multimillionaire, it's almost like you're upper middle class. So just keep that in mind, right? So anyway, boom, I hit it. Like, okay, damn, I'm crushing. Like I'm dropping hundreds of thousands of dollars on jewelry. I just dropped $250,000 on a car. This is 2018. I got my dream car, Rolls Royce Wraith, customized, unique by a company called Creative Bespoke here in Arizona, right? The lights they're not just one color, they're Christmas colors, you know what I mean? The freaking body kit, like everything is just, it's not your average car. This is a beautiful, custom built car, right? And I got the cars and I'm chartering the jets and I got the 300 gram, diamond freaking jewelry necklace from Peter Marco in Beverly Hills. I got the watch. I got everything that you can think of, right? And now I went from survival to status. Now it's like, look at me. Like I made it. Look at my car. Look at my chain. Look at my watch. Look at everything. Look at the jets that I'm chartering, et cetera, et cetera. Look at the way I'm living. Look at the dinners I'm having. I went through this status phase from 18 probably to around 2020. It was probably a good 2-year run where it was just all about the next watch or the next car or driving around with 20, two bands or 20,000 in my car like I'm some kind of drug dealer. You know what I'm saying? Showing off my wife's, watches and purses and gifts. And, I went through that. I was like infatuated or just, I'm not even going to say obsessed. I was just consumed. I was consumed with that phase of my life. And then I became very unhappy. I became very spiritually bankrupt. And I'm like, I have the cars, the house, the jewelry, the money, the businesses. What's going on? Why am I feeling depressed? Right. And that's when I was like, well, because if something doesn't change, this is it. This is as good as it's going to get. Mm-hmm. So then I started to seek spiritual fulfillment at the highest level. I hired multiple personal development and spiritual mentors, right? I checked myself into a clinic at some point, a wellness clinic called Utopia in Florida, to just reset my body, my mind, my spirit, right? I started digging really deep into the word of God because I was beginning to drift, right? Materialism and and new age, crystals and energy and vortexes, that became a thing where I started to drift away from the source, right? There's nothing wrong with understanding that some of these things do hold or have energy, but you can never put your faith in that. You got to know where it comes from, which is creator, right?
Right.
So anyway, I started to drift, and then I found, like I said, I started to focus in on the things that really matter in life, which was my, myself, my health, my mind, my body, my spirit, my connection with God, my connection to my family, allowing them to love me, feeling their love, and then, loving them back harder. You know what I mean? Once that started to come into play, this took a couple years, by the way, then I started to become, more purpose-driven. I had more peace of mind. I had more joy in my life. And then I got to a place that I call significance. In that phase where you are now operating in significance is where you create legacy. That's when you really start to serve to your highest capacity. So that's why it's like the triangle, right? The triangle. It's broken down in 3 phases: survival, status, significance. That's what the triangle means. The triangle holds the strongest foundation possible. That's why you look at the pyramids and you look at a lot of things, right, that are foundation driven. The triangle has the strongest foundation out of any creation out there.
When you encounter somebody who is in a position where you might have been 10, 15 years ago, what is your advice to them typically?
And I know this sounds very cliche, but this is what it is. Your mindset first. Most of us don't even know that we are consciously asleep. We are operating subconsciously. We are everything we do, everything we say, the way we think, our relationships, all of it is a reflection and an extension of who we are, how we were programmed, how we were indoctrinated. Most of us are not consciously awake, first and foremost, right? You just can't see it. You don't even know it because you're operating subconsciously. Okay. And the first thing is you got to start to you begin to ask yourself questions. Man, why did I do that? Why did I say that? Why am I attracting these people? Why am I not attracting these opportunities, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? Once you start asking questions, the mind directs its focus to questions, right? And then you start to dig deep. Oh my God. Oh man, it was something my father did when I was 7 years old, right? Why are my relationships so short-lived or so combative? Oh, because that's all I ever saw growing up is my mom and my dad fighting. There was no respect. There was no love. There was no connection. You know what I'm saying? So see, all of it is subconscious. So you got to dig deep and you got to begin to do what's called shadow work. Shadow work is to go inside out and start peeling back layer by layer by layer, age by age by age, and start going all the way down to the bottom of the pit and start to understand why you operate the way you operate. That's the first thing.
And a lot of that stuff I think happens like before the age of 7. A lot of it, and then there's a certain aspect.
And we don't even know it, by the way.
Yeah, there's a certain aspect that happens when you're like in your teen years, where you have like a resolution in your mind, where you think the world is a certain way and you adapt that worldview. So I took a program called Landmark Education. I tell everybody about it. Like,
I heard about this program.
I think it's amazing.
I have a buddy that's in it, actually.
Yeah, people tell
Philip Yan.
Yeah,
he's in the Landmark program.
Well, people will say like, "Oh, I don't follow that stuff. It's a cult." And I said, "How do you know? Have you done it?" Like, and on top of that, if you're so smart, then how can somebody brainwash you in a 36-hour program? Like, it's 3 days. I'd
rather be brainwashed with positivity,
yeah, than what
I grew up with. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right. So, no, I was gonna tell you something. As far as the programming and indoctrination, like I said, that is the first thing. The first thing is, you have to let go of all those limited beliefs. That is what held me back
That's what this whole brand is about. So people think we just interview people who have made it just because. Like, the whole point is that we want to get into the mindset.
That's right.
And on top of that, the youth isn't out there in the world anymore. They're on the phone.
They're on social,
I have three younger sisters, so I'm like, well, if I'm gonna, if they're gonna be on the phone, then they're gonna have to hear my voice either way.
That's right.
Because I'm still gonna send you positive, reinforcement. So, and I also too, like, nobody is born or grew up perfect. A lot of people, I mean, there's people, I believe in second chances. I think people who go to prison, they could be rehabilitated. So it's like, you're not stuck a certain way. So don't, like, a lot of times they say that humans are a lot, like, obviously this is like a fact actually, is humans are way less merciful than God. God is like the ultimate mercy.
For sure.
God will forgive you. Humans won't forgive you.
Yeah, we don't have enough empathy, compassion, and grace.
We don't. People get slaughtered online and crushed. It's like, you forget everybody's a human.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, obviously there's certain things that are like really horrible, but at the end of the day, like, leave it to God to judge, or of course, don't let, crime go unpunished, right? But like, there's like sides to it, right? And I noticed you talk a lot about like political topics, you talk about religious, all the things, that people not supposed to talk about. You love to talk about. And it's funny because I actually really do like to talk about them. And a lot of times, it's just like you're in a room and you're meeting people. And when you meet people and they're like, no, we can't talk about that. It's like we'll disagree and there'll be a fight. Well, then do you know how to conversate?
Yeah, and I didn't do that. I didn't do a lot of that on purpose. Here, let me just give you a quick rundown. And just to finish up what we were saying, most human beings, by the time they're 35, that is where their mental development stops. Most people, who they are at 35 is who they're going to be for the rest of their lives, unless you're conscious of it, unless you start making some changes, right? So that's one. The other thing is, back to this whole, political and like controversial thing that I do. It's like, bro, I've tried. First of all, I'm an operator. I'm a business builder. I love systems, processes, hiring people, core values, culture. You know what I mean? Like, that's who I am by nature. I like to build. I'm a builder, and I've never been a social media guy. I always say that, like, I'm not a social media guy. I'm a guy on social media, right? And I say that because I hated social media up until this year. Hated it. The way that I developed my brand was mostly speaking on stages, to be frank with you. Like, I'm speaking on all kinds of different stages, spoken before and after Ed Milet, spoken before and after Bradley. You know what I mean? Like, speaking on all these stages across the country is how I built my brand. I didn't even care about building a brand. You know what I mean? I just cared about reaching people and like empowering people and breaking their limited mindsets or their limited beliefs, right? That's all I ever cared about. And I hated social media, and I hired social media teams, and I used to pay them $15,000 to $20,000 from 2019 to around 2022, 2023, whatever. And I just hated it because they always wanted you to do whatever everybody else was doing. Hey, so today we're going to talk about, give us 3 tips on how you can become financially free, right? That's it. And I'm like, dude, I don't want to do that. How about this, right? Finally, I found a social media team that complies with who I am. How about I'm just myself, right? This is advice that I got from Andy Frisella in 2022 and Bradley in 2023. They're like, hey, be the content. Just be yourself. Be authentic. The rest is history, right? So then this year, I finally, specifically started in February, I'm just going to be myself. And my social media team was like, all right, bro, you're a pretty diverse dude. Like, that's fine. Let's do it. And look what's happened. I got more reels that have gone viral this year than combined than any other time in my social media career. You know what I mean? Just for me being myself.
Yeah.
So if you do social media as something like I'm looking to gain or accomplish something from it, I don't think you're going to have fun. I think you're going to hate it. I think your soul's going to not align, right? But if you do social media to just deliver the message of who you are, right, you're going to find your voice, and it's not going to feel like work. Social media to me, like this interview doesn't feel like work. You know what I mean? Why? Because I'm just being myself. So for anybody out there that's listening, right? You know, you said something very powerful about the youth that's coming up. There's only 3 ways that a human being consumes: through our eyes, what we watch; through our ears, what we listen to; and through our mouth, what we eat. So start being super conscious and selective of what you're listening to, what you're watching, and what you're eating. You know what I mean? And to me, that's what it comes down to is, brother, I've been banned over and over and over. I think they just lifted another ban for like the 50th time, right? But that, to me, it's like, you know what? I'm just going to be me, and I'm going to deliver my authentic message, and whoever watches, watches, and whoever listens, listens. And I've already, the feedback that I've received this year versus any other year ever has been absolutely insane, bro. So that's my advice to anybody out there listening and watching.
I also think that there's a huge demand for
authenticity,
but also faith. Like, I think there's a huge demand for faith. I think people haven't talked about their faith enough. They haven't talked about their beliefs enough. And I remember when I went to your event like 2 months or a month ago.
Which was the meetup?
Yeah, your meetup.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like a big event.
No, we threw a real event, right, in Dallas, December 2023. We had 1,060 bodies show up.
Well, you're local, you know?
Yeah. This was a little meetup.
Yeah, I know that wasn't, I know you guys.
Oh, no, not to be egotistical. It was a meetup, and it was a sales meetup to try to get people to work in our solar company, right?
And I remember when I was there, though, the one thing I noticed and I really appreciated was that you led with, like, we're mission driven and we believe in God.
Faith driven, yeah.
And faith driven and God's army. And a lot of that, like, okay, so, I mean, you could, you know, a lot of people might disagree with me, but if you don't have God,
yeah, I
mean, I could be at the most rock bottom, but if you don't have God,
you don't have anything.
If you're at the bottom, what do you have to fall on?
Yeah.
That's like, I don't think if you truly believe in God, I don't think you believe in like suicide and those type of things. What's the difference? Like,
you're held to a higher standard too.
You're held to a standard. Yeah. And like, of course we're sinners by nature as humans, but also that's the thing that there's a quote, and I'm Muslim. There's a quote, and it says, if humans were to be perfect, God would verily replace us with people that would sin and repent instead.
Wow.
And it's all, I mean, the Old Testament, everything, it's in there. I mean, we still believe the Old Testament.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of confusion right now with all the stuff online, political, whatever, but we believe in God. One God, one, you know, and
Creator.
faith,
yeah, the God
Creator,
of Abraham,
the 10 Commandments, all of that stuff. Like, and I think that it's just, the fact is, like, if you're doing business with somebody, if you're working with someone, it's harder to do it with someone.
I was going to tell you, bro.
How do you trust them? You know?
I've never been burned by someone who truly walked the path of the righteous path of being a believer in God. Everybody that's burned me in the past for millions were fake Muslims. Internally, employees were fake Christians. You know what I mean? Like, you got to be careful, because a lot of people proclaim to be something or to believe, but the fact of the matter is their actions don't match their words, right? So most people, I would say 80 to 90% of people out there that are shielding themselves behind God are shielding themselves for a reason, right? It's something that they're hiding. They're not really living the righteous path. They're not living in their truth. So I know that when I meet someone that really is holding themselves to a higher moral standard, it's because of the afterlife. They know that this isn't the end, right? So if you think about it, right, for anybody out there that is willing to lie, cheat, steal, betray you, right, that's because they feel like there are no consequences after this life.
Yeah.
So therefore, they're willing to pay whatever price they need to pay because they feel like there's not a real price to pay. The price that you pay is your life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's why I try to stay away from, especially in business, doing business deals with folks that are just not walking the same path because I've been burned too much.
Yeah. And I think it's the same way that they see that, because it's easy to get, I would say it's technically easy in a way. It's like selling your soul to the devil. It's easy to get ahead if you're willing to
lie, cheat, steal.
I mean, I've had 10 paths with this, I could have, faked this and faked that and did all, and I was like, I'll just grow slow and steady. And I think that also too, there's benefits to that. It's always like at the beginning, it's harder, but then in the end, it's more worth it, right?
It's real. It's real. So I can tell you this, a lot of podcasts out there right now, I know several podcasts that are hiring agencies to inflate their numbers to rise the charts so that they can sell the show.
Yeah.
Right. So what do they sell the show? Hey, I got a top 10 podcast. It's a bunch of Egyptians and Indians dropping comments and or reviews and etc. Right. Yeah. And they're like, hey, for $10,000 or for $6,000, you can come on my show. I have a top 10 podcast.
Yeah.
I know a handful of people that are doing that.
Yeah.
Again, bro,
I just wouldn't feel right doing it.
Now, don't forget that. Yeah. Not feeling right is one thing, but what is the definition of evil? Evil is to harm with intent. By lying to someone, right, you are intentionally harming that person. Does that make sense? By lying to someone, knowing you're lying to them, knowing you're taking money from them, literally, what's the word I'm looking for? Deceiving that person, that's evil. You're harming them with intent.
Yeah.
So that's what's out there right now.
And so since you've been in the media journey and doing media, how has that changed your perspective? Because I know after doing this for over a year and a half, that's how long we've been operating. Yeah. It's changed my perspective. You also see what people respond to, which is funny. Yeah. You post all these reels and you're like, really? That's what you're responsive to? I'm almost seeing the difference between like TikTok, YouTube. I mean, people on Instagram, they only care about money. I'm telling you right now, from seeing what people primarily...
And they don't have money.
They don't have money, and they care about money.
It's so wild.
TikTok, though, they want, like, mission-driven or entertainment. They're like... Either it's like... Because there's, like... It's almost like everybody's in their own little niche, like, clique.
People that watch heavy TikTok don't watch heavy IG.
No, right? Yeah, same.
People that watch heavy Facebook don't watch heavy something else.
That's so weird.
People that are on YouTube,
they're like historians. YouTube's like historian people. Like it's like I posted a thing about my buddy Martin. He talked about the Mongols, and China, and that actually did really well as a reel on YouTube.
The Mongols in China.
It's
damn, bro.
You know what? It's super hard to
check it out. My YouTube channel, 3.5 million views in the past 30 days, right? Yeah. So it's like, that's growing. The last 28 days, right? That's growing 3.5 million views the last 28 days, right? Organic, real. Like when I started this podcast that I just started, I started it, we're about 18 episodes in, and I was around 14,000 subs. I never even pushed YouTube. The only thing that I'm pushing on YouTube right now is the podcast. I think we're around 23,000 subs now in 18 episodes. So that thing is like skyrocketing.
What is your primary topics on that?
Just the podcast.
Yeah.
I got nothing else, bro.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm not really good at, like, I'm not on TikTok. I've been banned 3 times. You know what I mean? Like, I've been, like, my account has been shut off 3 different times. So
I violated community guidelines on stuff that has nothing to do with anything inappropriate.
That's why it's wild. It's wild, right? So right now, and I'm not really on X, and I should be.
I should be too.
I should be. I'm lazy when it comes to social media because I just want people to take care of it, you know?
You know who's inspired me a lot, and actually the reason I started podcasting?
Who?
Brad Lee.
Oh, yeah.
That's the original guy that I started to follow. And we're working out like logistics. I'm trying to figure out how we're going to get him 10 minutes away from his office for an hour right now. Like why
don't you just,
so I'm talking to Maria. She's, you met Maria probably.
I know Maria, yeah.
She's, so we're coordinating it. But he's like next, soon. Yeah. I'm coordinating it still. So I know you're on his show. I'd really appreciate it.
Forget that, bro. Brad, I talk to Brad every day.
I love Brad, dude. I want to interview him so bad.
Him and I FaceTime like every day.
Oh.
You didn't know that?
No.
There's a lot of things that a lot of people don't know, bro. Like,
Brad's like my favorite dude. Like,
look at this.
I literally think that Brad's like the coolest.
Bro, look.
You know what it is about Brad though?
So that's And my late night texts.
It's
right?
because Brad just sits there. Like, he inspired me because he sits there, and the thing that he told you, he never, I remember he's like, I never plan content, whatever, just who he is.
That's
He's
Andy
just himself.
Frisella and I, we text, right?
I mean, dude, I would love to get all of them, but my main goal is the guy who inspired me to start this show. If you could push me in that direction, that'd be awesome. I'd love to interview Brad. Brad is next. He's in Vegas. I have a studio in Vegas. Great studio.
Have you reached out to him?
Yeah. I'm talking to Maria. I talked to Brad. It's just coordinating the schedule is tough. But if you put a word in, maybe he'll coordinate
He's
faster.
right there. FaceTime.
Wait. Brad? Is that not... Hey.
Yeah, talk to him.
What's up, Brad? Oh, I dropped a water. Hey, what's up, brother? It's Shaquille, Kicking Ass, Taking Names podcast. I'm here with Carlos Reyes right now. We're live. And we were talking about coordinating. I told him that I messaged you. I told him that you're the reason I started podcasting. And essentially just, yeah, man, you just do your thing. So I think you're the coolest dude on the
I'll
earth,
connect
bro.
you guys. I know you're working, brother. I know you're working. We're just in the middle of a podcast, but I thought it would be super cool. You inspired this dude to start. Ooh. Is that a Monte Cristo?
You already know that it is.
You're the reason why this man started to podcast, so I figure I FaceTime you on his podcast. We're in the middle of a show, but I felt I'm like, dude, get to meet him. He's the freaking one of the coolest human beings ever, which is you, right?
Well, you wouldn't be lying, Carlos. You wouldn't be lying. Carry on, young man.
All right, love you, brother. There you go.
Dude, yeah, I would love to get that interview soon. I just think he's freaking legit. Like, he's very authentic.
He's the best, bro. I'm telling you, like, it's funny because a lot of people don't know, like, I have the most amazing relationships, right? That people, I'm not a guy that like is a clout chaser, right? Like I FaceTime with these guys. I talk to these guys. I don't ask them for anything. Right? We're just friends. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, how do you become friends with guys like that?
I mean, I think that's what partially gets, I think what's getting me results is I'm genuinely interested in
just serve.
I just want to know how did you be like, it's like there's two ways to do it. Like, oh yeah, there's a benefit, like the podcast interview. But if they were to say you could interview me and nobody gets to watch it, it's deleted, I would still do it.
That's right. Yeah.
So there's a difference because I wouldn't just interview somebody and say like, okay, cool. Like obviously there are interviews where I'm like, oh, you know what? Let's get some content, stuff like that. It'll be great. But there's also like the main purpose of this is like, people look up to these people, and a lot of people don't know a lot about them other than what they're showing. And I would like to have a different perspective. And how are you going to get that unless somebody else asks their question?
This dude and I, like I said, we FaceTime each other every day. So we have what you call virtual cigar sessions. Like two old men will sit in our backyards. We'll FaceTime each other. We'll smoke our Cuban cigars, and we'll play chess.com. We'll play, all right, bro, let's do best of three. And we'll just sit there like old men at a park.
Well, you know who else was inspiring to me? Even though a lot of people are like, oh, he's very like cut and dry. He's, all about his business. But still, I wouldn't have taken half the sales jobs or been involved in sales. It wasn't for Grant.
Yeah.
Grant was like the
that's
original.
Somebody that I never really...
He was the OG.
Yeah, so. I interviewed him on my old show back in July of 2019. Brother, I will say this. I have a really tough time. I'm a relationship kind of human being.
Yeah.
I have a tough time connecting with transactional human beings.
I think it's the way it is for me is in my head. I think of it and I prep myself for not being disappointed. So if I were to say
Good for you.
If I were to say like, oh, I just want to like be friends. I'm like, look, I've heard this about Grant. I know, he's really focused.
I'll talk to Grant if I have a deal. You know what I mean?
But the thing is though, I don't.
It's a transaction.
But the thing is though, I still would want to say thank you to him because his content has helped me.
By the way, he really is on his Instagram. Just text him. Just email him, or do a DM.
So if it wasn't for MLM, believe it or not, I probably wouldn't have half the guests I've met because these guys are super connected.
Yeah.
Because MLM, like that's our network. Networking is your network is your net worth, and all that stuff. Like that's when I was like younger and we're studying and Kiyosaki, this and that. Like I don't believe in the whole Amway thing. Like that's one of them that when I was a teenager, I almost got into Primerica. Yeah,
right?
I mean,
but I didn't even know what an MLM
There's some
was.
good
I just
ones.
wanted to do some business.
There's some good ones, and there's some ones that I'm like, I've heard, things.
I hear good things about Herbalife.
Yeah, like good quality
and again,
product.
I don't know nothing about Herbalife, but I have a buddy who I played basketball with back in the day, and he's crushing it with Herbalife, and he's been doing that for like 7 years or something.
So if you could look at the camera,
Boom.
tell me also what would be your best advice? What's Carlos Reyes' best advice for life and for people who want to kick ass?
Yeah. Here, I'll just say this. Anybody that's out there watching or listening, anything is possible, right? Mark 9:23 says, anything is possible if you just believe. And the fact of the matter is, one, you have to believe it, but how do you even begin to change your belief system? You can't believe in something if your belief system is broken. So you have to start putting in the work, right, in rewiring and reprogramming your hard drive, which is your subconscious mind, right? I strongly encourage you to read a book called Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker. That book back in 2014 shifted my whole perspective about my mindset. So one, start shifting your belief system, and two, start taking massive action. I give you my word that even if you fail at whatever venture you're attempting, whether you're attempting to flip cars or do real estate or do software, whatever, it's going to feel like that workout that you didn't want to go do, right? What happens at the end of that workout? Do you regret it? No. You feel really good about what you just accomplished. And that's what's going to happen. You're going to feel forward, and you're going to use that as a building block for the next thing. So that's what I want to, that's the advice I want to give you.
Okay, so everybody, if you want to find Carlos, you can look up
Carlos Reyes.
Carlos
Instagram,
Reyes on Instagram or YouTube is the same.
Same.
Carlos Reyes, and also All In.
allinnation.com.
Allinnation.com, All In Podcast. And so, all right, well, thank you so much, brother.
Thank you, bro.